Okay, hi everyone, and thanks for joining us on this episode of STEMTogether, where we facilitate conversations involving industry professionals on everyday matters involving STEM. Now, I'm Danny from Science Centre Singapore, and I'm joined today by Chua Kai Ning, the co-founder of Insectta. Hi, Kai Ning, an urban insect farm in Singapore, and Pierre Yeap, a science enthusiast who loves biology and in particular, and he's a JC1 student from Hwa Chong Institution. So hi, Kai Ning and Pierre, how are you both?
Good, thank you so much. I'm Kai from Insectta. You can just call me Kai for the rest of the session. So I'm the co-founder of Insectta. Really looking forward to hearing what we have for today.
Thanks, Kai. And how about you, Pierre? How's things with you?
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Pierre from Hwa Chong Institution, and I'm really glad to be here today.
Okay, wonderful. And thanks, Kai and Pierre, for joining us on STEMTogether. Now, today's topic is on food waste, and we hope to discuss that in three parts. Part 1, the big problem. Part 2, the big prospect. And Part 3, the big future. So I'm going to engage Pierre and Kai through a series of questions next, and we'll be oscillating between the two of them as they respond to these questions. Now, for Part 1, the big problem. Do you finish the food you have been served or have prepared? Let's start off with Pierre on this one.
Okay, so yes, I definitely try my best to finish all of the food that is served, and I also try to reduce the amount of food that I order in order to not waste any food. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds like almost too good to believe. How do you manage this when you're in a bigger group, and you're sharing food amongst yourselves with friends or with family that's hosting a big party?
Oh, okay. So although I do try my best to finish all of the food, I don't always succeed in doing so. And sometimes there'll be some food that's left over, and my family usually tries to keep the leftovers and eat it for the next meal. But sometimes some of the food that cannot be left over, we'll just throw it away.
Okay, I see. All right. So here comes a bit more realism, the response. Well, thanks for being honest with us. How about you, Kai? What's your take on this?
I think I'll be lying if I say I finished 100% of all my food.
Okay, the big reveal to come in just a bit. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Okay, for our next question, how much food do you think gets wasted in Singapore? Pierre.
Okay, so I'm not sure of the exact amount or the exact mass that's wasted, but I'm sure it makes up quite a large percentage of the amount of total waste in Singapore. So if I recall correctly, the amount of different types of waste for textile waste is around 155,000. So I would estimate that for food waste, it will be around 100,000 tons.
Okay, that's an interesting estimate. How about you, Kai? What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm a bit cheating because I kind of already know the figures. Insectta is Singapore's first black sugarfly facility. We work very close with NEA on our food wastage figures, and it's anywhere between 10 to 20% of Singapore's entire waste.
Wow. Well, according to the NEA, just giving the big picture here, from what we do know, 665,000 tons. That's 650 million kilograms of food waste was generated in 2020 alone. That's about 11% down from 2019. So definitely a good step in the right direction of going the route of a zero waste nation. Interestingly, 11% is also the figure for how much food waste accounts for the total waste generated in Singapore. Now, if you picture well over like 1,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools filled with food waste, that's how much food gets wasted. And if you want to break it down to an individual level, that's the equivalent of nearly 2 bowls of food per person per day. That's just mind-blowing. All right, so that's a lot of food waste. Now, what do you think happens to food waste in Singapore? Let's start off with Pierre.
Okay, so what I think happens to food waste is that a small percentage of the food waste might get recycled. So for example, it can be used to generate electricity. That's one of the uses that I think food waste has. And the other pathway that food waste take will be, I think it goes into the waste to energy plants and is incinerated there before being disposed in landfills.
That's a really good guess, Pierre. Yeah. How about you, Kai Ning or Kai? Yeah.
So more or less spot on. All the food waste that we have, almost all of it gets incinerated in our incineration plants, right? Some of it does get recycled in the form of food distribution. For example, we have really cool companies that are looking to close the gap between uneaten but still edible food and distribute it to the needy. But ultimately, this is just a very, very small percent. The most of the food waste that ends up in our incinerators, we do have to kind of separate it from general waste like our paper and plastics. We have to remember it's actually treated a little bit differently from our paper and plastics because food waste is wet.
Right. Thanks, Kai and Pierre. Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think about nearly a fifth, about 20% of the food waste gets recycled or treated. That was the case in 2020, and it was just up 1% from 2019. The rest, as you rightfully mentioned, got incinerated or gets incinerated and gets sent to the landfill. Now, at this rate, the NEA estimate that we need a new incineration plant every 7 years and a new landfill every 30 years. Not a tenable situation for us. All right, let's move on to the next question. Have you heard about the circular economy? And if so, what's your understanding of this? Let's start off with Pierre.
I think I have heard about the circular economy in school, as well as in the projects that I've done. So my understanding of the circular economy is that it's a cycle of production and consumption. So it involves processes such as, I think, recycling as well as reusing to minimize the amount of waste generated. So I believe that if we are able to achieve a circular economy, we might be able to help tackle the problems around the world, such as global warming and climate change and excessive pollution. And it might be able to help us create a better environment.
That's a very good way to put it. What do you think, Kai?
I think Pierre's got it pretty spot on. The circular economy essentially is a new way of thinking about production. It contrasts with the linear economy where products have a birth and an end, right? So they start out somewhere and they die somewhere, usually in the incinerator. For me, how I usually explain the circular economy to sum up is a production system where nothing goes to waste. There is no such thing as waste, only resource. And in the case of Insectta, where we are trying to apply our circular economy is in our food supply chain, where we reimagine food waste as a resource.
All right, I think that's a nice segue into the next part of our discussion, which is the big prospect, and it's time for the big reveal. Kai Ning, or Kai, sorry, let's start off with you for this section. When did you get interested in tackling food waste?
How I really got into the whole idea of waste valorization with insects, of all things, really had to start with my passion for earthworm composting. And it's something that everyone can do at home. And sometimes these black soldier flies visit your bin, and curiosity will get the better of you, and you kind of learn where the black soldier fly stands in the endo industry, how great they are at consuming waste. And that's where it all began, really with a hobby and a passion.
Very interesting, with your grandfather as a role model there. So that kind of was a nice segue into leading you to get interested in this. How did that, as a follow-up question, how did that lead you into setting up a black soldier fly insect farm, though, to transform waste into high-value biomaterials?
We've been actually interacting very closely with insects for thousands of years as a society. And now we're beginning to take the next step by integrating deep tech into the insect industry and marry both nature as well as technology. So where insects really stand in the waste valorization is their ability to convert food waste, which would otherwise be incinerated, into biomass, or simply put, their bodies, right? And from there, the sky's the limit. They can be turned into animal feed, they can be turned into fertilizer. And in the case of Insectta, we're upping the game a little bit and transforming them into high-value biomaterials for things like your cosmetics or your pharmaceuticals and even electronics.
Wow, that's quite a transformation. Tell us what happens at Insectta. I think in particular how STEM is applied at the workplace.
So, like I mentioned, Insectta is Singapore's first black soldier fly biotech company, right? Just a quick introduction about the black soldier fly in case you guys have not heard of this amazing insect before. They are native to Singapore. You'll find them in places like Bukit Timah or Changi, our forests, essentially. And even though these fellas are our neighbors, many of you may not have seen them before because they don't go into urban areas. They are not pests. And in the insect world, they are renowned for their ability to consume organic material that includes food waste incredibly quickly, grow very fast, and reproduce very, very efficiently. Now, the insect world has been using this power and tapping on it to promote a circular economy in our food supply chain by using them for agricultural purposes. So they eat food waste. The larvae or the maggot of the black soldier fly gets turned into animal feed. Their poo or their frass get turned into fertilizer, right? And then that gets sent to livestock crops as well as livestock and crops, which end up on our plate again. Now, what happens at Insectta is we develop technology to actually extract biomaterials such as chitosan and melanin from the black soldier fly to be used in various industries, ranging from biomedical all the way to cosmetics. And by doing this, we increase the value of the black soldier fly and expand its potential beyond just in the agriculture industry.
Very interesting. And that picture on your wallpaper right now, that's a picture of the black soldier fly?
Yes. So as you can see, I'm going to duck down here. It doesn't really look like a housefly. And it shouldn't be mistaken with housefly. It's not a pest. They do not transmit any disease. They do not go near people's food, in fact. And many Singaporeans who do see it, maybe in the gardens or the parks, they may think it's a wasp.
Wow, okay. So what's the unique identifier of this and how do we differentiate this from a wasp?
Okay. So they actually mimic a wasp to protect themselves. So to the layman and to the black soldier fly, it's actually a good thing if they don't be able to tell the difference. That's how the black soldier fly protects himself. But you can tell it's a black soldier fly by the eyes. You can see the big bug eyes there. People believe they're called a soldier fly because their head looks kind of like a helmet, right? You can see they have black and white feet, similar to the Aedes mosquito, but they're not a mosquito. Like I said, they don't come near people.
Yeah.
And they have this amazing blue sheen on their wings. And this photo doesn't show it, but they mimic a wasp so well that if you look at their abdomen, they actually have transparent clear windows at the side to mimic the thin wasp waist, but they're not. They have big fat abdomens just like flies, but it's super cool. They have like clear windows, you can see your hands through it.
Wow, okay, interesting anatomy there. Definitely want to catch one up close if possible, or at least look at some macro photography shots of this interesting insect. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Kai. Pierre, I want to switch over to you now. I understand you're a science enthusiast, you love biology, but you've also done a project at school involving the black soldier fly larvae. Could you tell us a little bit about that project and some of your learnings from that?
Actually, the project that I've done in school is actually not about black soldier fly larvae, but it's actually about ant colonies. So what we wanted to do was that we wanted to grow an ant colony. So at first we got some food for the ant colony, and I think we ran out of food halfway through. So we decided to get new food, and what we got was black soldier fly. Yeah, we got small black soldier flies to feed our ants. And what I learned from this project, and actually what I learned about black soldier flies, is that there's actually so many uses about for black soldier flies. So of course my knowledge about black soldier flies aren't as much as Kai's one, but I know that it has a short lifespan and is incredibly nutritious to our ant colony, as well as I guess many other different animals. So when we fed the black soldier flies to the ants, they actually grew really quickly and they multiplied way faster than the previous food that we fed them. So yeah, I think it's very nutritious for them.
Wow, that's really interesting. So an ant colony project And then to kind of beef up the food supply to that, you kind of chanced on this. But how did you get to that knowledge of, hey, maybe they will actually take to this black soldier fly larvae?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so actually we didn't intend to buy black soldier flies, but then the food that we used to give the ants consisted of proteins as well as honey, which is something that to reward the ants actually. So we thought that something else with protein would be a good food source for the ants. So we chanced across black soldier flies, which we heard contain a lot of protein. So we decided to feed the black soldier flies to the ants, and in fact it worked. Yeah, and the ants grew really quickly because I think there was a lot of protein inside.
Interesting. Okay, Kai, just curious, have you ever encountered something like this where the black soldier flies are a useful source of protein for ants or even for human consumption?
So that's actually what black soldier flies are being farmed for now, traditionally, protein for animals. It's still a pretty niche and new industry, but it's traditionally used to feed chickens and fish as an alternative to fish meal or soy meal, which is known to be unsustainable to farm or to fish in the seas. But there's been a lot of, interest in the high protein content, and I guess the sustainability of using black soldier flies as an animal food. And now you even see dog food made with black soldier flies, right? Lots of commercial fish food. In fact, I was just at like this pet lover center not too long ago, and I saw this like insect range of fish food, and I saw it contain like black soldier flies. So I thought that was pretty cool. The first time I saw that. So yeah, pretty familiar with actually even the ant keeping community regularly gets black soldier flies from us to feed their ants.
Nice.
But I think the more interesting part that you mentioned was human consumption, right? Because most of us are pretty like grossed out about insects and would kind of be very squeamish about either putting it on your hand or even inside your mouth. So if we were to take all that social conditioning away, the truth is insects are an amazing source of protein. Black soldier flies in particular are very high in healthy fatty acids as well. So they are a natural source of protein that communities in Southeast Asia and even South America have been consuming for thousands of years. It's only the modern, I guess, Western world who's kind of like super icked out about insects. So yeah, they're actually perfect to eat. It's just in here. It has nothing to do with the taste or the nutrition or anything like that.
Well, that sets me up for my next question. Have you tasted one?
Of course. How can I say I real black soldier flies but I never ever taste one? Yes, of course I've tasted it. And in fact, many people who actually visit the farm do taste it after going for one of our farm tours, which really I guess warms my heart, because they start like super grossed out by insects, but then by the end they're actually putting it in their mouths, which I think is super cool. A lot of people say they have a pleasant taste. They taste nutty, a little bit like sesame oil. They're very fragrant. So yeah, they can be used as food.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. All right. All right, let's go on to the next section, the final section, which is the big future. Pierre, how do you plan to reduce food waste at home and in school?
Okay, so the way I intend to reduce food waste is that at home I will try to ask my parents to buy less food and only buy the amount of food that we'll be able to finish, as well as I will let my parents know if on that day I'm feeling a bit less hungry, so that they don't cook too much for me. And I also try to help my family members eat the food that they can't finish. And in school, I'll definitely buy less food from the canteen and ask for like less rice if I'm not feeling particularly hungry that day.
So that's a smart way of going about it, kind of like right sizing the portions and also helping others finish up what they can't finish up as well, I think, which is really good. What's your message about food waste to fellow students out there?
Okay, so if I have one message for all my fellow students, it will be if each of us cut down food waste by a little bit, our collective effort will be able to significantly reduce the amount of food waste that is generated in Singapore.
Small change for a big change. I like that. Thanks for that, Pierre. Over to you, Kai. What's next for Insectta?
So what we've done in the past 1.5 years is develop a patent pending extraction technique to actually take these biomaterials out of the black soldier fly. The fact that it's patent pending means that we are the first in the world to be able to do this. So our next step, now that we've developed this extraction technique, is to scale up from a lab scale to a pilot scale. And I think that's going to happen sometime soon in the first or second quarter of 2020. So that's our immediate next step. But the long-term goal for us definitely is to be a pioneer in the circular economy in terms of extracting biomaterials from the black soldier fly. And of course, we do want to see a lot of younger people go into STEM, because without people who are passionate about this industry, there's not going to be an industry in the first place. So whether people come from STEM backgrounds or not, we in the long run have always been a pioneer of introducing people to this weird and wonderful world of insect farming through what we do, like our outreach and education programs as well.
That's a very interesting thing that you brought across. I think about whether regardless of whether you're from the STEM background or not, which leads me to this question, coincidentally, that I really feel like asking: are you from a STEM background?
So yes, a lot of people ask, you must study like life science or entomology to be able to become an insect entrepreneur or farmer or anything like that. And the answer is actually no, not necessarily. So I'm actually a linguistics major, English linguistics major, which is a pretty, what people would say, a far cry from the STEM industry. But the truth is, the STEM industry really needs the soft skills that the humanity has. So case in point, we need communicators, we need people who know how to pitch ideas, people who know how to think out of the box to complement all our scientists with their hard skills. Insectta wouldn't exist as it is if we weren't be able to even spread the message out about what we do, if we didn't have people being able to develop products or seeing niches in the markets or problem statements in the markets. And this is where we need the humanities to come in. I would also give a good example. For the insect industry in particular, one big challenge we have to overcome is the stigma people have against insects and the soft skills of being able to communicate, persuade, and change people's mindsets. Well, I would say the humanities people, we have a little bit niche on that.
Nice. Okay, so science communication, I think, is a big area, I think, where those from the non-STEM backgrounds can definitely come in and play a big part in the storytelling and in shaping convictions as well and mindsets. Yeah. Any parting words to students that are looking to you and also to Insectta for inspiration?
I would say for most students who want to go into any sunrise industry that involves STEM, I think the important thing is to really pursue your passion and nail down what drives you. In Insectta's case, for my case, it's definitely waste valorization, a sense of duty towards the environment, as well as my passion for entrepreneurship, meaning the ability to see where there are market needs, see future trends and demands, and tackle those. So I also don't want people to feel disheartened about entering the industries that they're passionate about just because they don't have the conventional background to go in. I do think for most sunrise industries, there isn't any relevant degree in the first place. Who has an insect farming degree anyway, right? So don't let that discourage you and just pursue it with whatever strong suits you have.
Wonderful. And you're definitely a very telling, glowing role model for everyone out there in this regard. Yeah. So thanks for sharing your insights and time, Kai, and also Pierre. Thank you both for your time at STEMTogether. I definitely learned a lot from your sharing, and I believe the rest of our viewers did too. You know, reducing food waste is a conscientious effort. Starts with you and me making the right decisions from the kitchen buying, storing, sharing food considerately, and extending to food retail, food manufacturing, and supermarkets, as well as not forgetting places like Insectta that help to process the food waste into very useful biomaterials, all of which contribute to the circular economy. So viewers, if you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't subscribed, please hit that notification bell to subscribe. And if you're viewing the STEMTogether series on Facebook, click follow. So remember, like and share this video with your friends. Stay tuned for our next conversation. This is Danny with my guests Kai and Pierre signing out. Bye-bye.